Welcome, everybody, to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu, and I talk about 4 different types of freedom: time, financial, location, health, and I'm always scouring the globe looking for entrepreneurs on the cutting edge, doing fascinating things and changing the world. So today, I have Quentin West, and what's really interesting, he dubs himself as an Airbnb millionaire and a life business coach. And Airbnb is this fantastic phenomenon over the last 10 years. It's changed everything. And today is going to be talking all about Airbnb arbitrage, how to use Airbnb. And with that, welcome Quentin to the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Liu. Appreciate you having me, and thanks for the intro.
Yeah, all my friends call me Chris.
Okay.
And yeah, so tell us more about your story, your background, your company, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off in Airbnb more off of necessity. I had a property that I purchased with an FHA loan, and I used my real estate commission because I was a real estate agent at the time to put down on that property. So I only had around $1,500 in a down payment to get started. And I moved some of my furniture from where I dropped out of college a couple years before into the house. So I'd have furniture to stay with. Long story short, I couldn't make my payments. Real estate sales just didn't pick up well enough for me to live off of and also make, my mortgage. So I moved back in with my parents, and a friend of mine at the time was operating a property he inherited on Airbnb, and he was making pretty decent money. So I thought, I've already got the furniture here in the home. I've got this house that I'm not living in anymore. So I may as well try to Airbnb it and see if that becomes successful. So it absolutely did succeed. The very first month I profited $1,000. And then the month after that, I profited $1,500. And since then, that property has made consistently $1,000 to $1,500 or more in profit every single month. That's where I got my foot in the door. And me being a 20-year-old kid, I didn't have a ton of money at the time. I didn't have a lot of credit, but I saw Airbnb as a huge opportunity and something that I needed to dive into further. So after I saw that great success with that first house, I was searching the internet day and night, trying to figure out creative ways to get other properties. I was looking into creative financing, which I ended up using that knowledge later on in my career, but at the time it was all new to me. The thing that stood out to me most was the arbitrage model. I stumbled upon somebody talking about how they're renting a property long-term from a landlord that owned the house, and then they were subleasing it to tenants on Airbnb. So I thought, if this guy can do it, then surely I can. So immediately I took action. I went to Zillow. I found a property that was very similar to the one that I was already, and I started renting it for $1,300 a month. And pretty soon it was making $1,000 to $1,500 a month in profit as well. It took me about 30 days to get that one up and running, just using credit cards and lines of credit and anything I could scrap together to fill the property with furniture. But after that first one, and I proved that concept that arbitrage was profitable, from there I just continued to build my credit score so that I could utilize other people's money, partner with other people on co-hosting opportunities, and then saving up as much cash as I could from my real estate sales to grow my arbitrage business.
Yeah, really interesting. Like I said, Airbnb's opened up a ton of opportunities, and especially for the arbitrage, and especially during the 08 financial crisis, it helped people rent out their homes, stay in their homes.
Absolutely.
And now it's this awesome platform. It's marketing, it can be experiences. So you talked about arbitrage. There's other ways of making money, and one of those is co-hosting. So tell us how that works.
Yeah, so I got into co-hosting, and right now we manage about 5 other properties for other people. But I got into co-hosting because I maxed out my credit. I didn't have any more money to put into properties, and I had these big goals that I wanted to achieve. So what I did was start reaching out to people that I knew that owned properties. A friend of mine actually owned a long-term rental, and that was one of the first ones that I co-hosted for. He was able to double his monthly profit by turning the property over to me to manage for him. And he just had to put some furniture in there. But I believe he even had some used furniture in a storage unit that he moved in. Either way, we got it up and running. That one took off. He was super pumped because now he doubled his profit overnight just by handing it over to me. And then pretty soon he started talking to other people that came to me as well for me to have them co-host their properties for them, or at least teach them how to get up and running and manage the property themselves.
And yeah, it's really interesting because, for example, co-hosting and basically it's property management, and you can split the profits. And really, it's almost like Airbnb created this. Basically, they became this multi-billion-dollar company, and they own no real estate. And now you can basically arbitrage it by managing others. The other thing is, what about, there's another thing on Airbnb called experiences. I'm not sure if you have experience with that or have any words for that.
So I haven't done any experiences. We actually don't live in a market where, in my opinion, it would be profitable. We're not a vacation market. So if we lived more of in a vacation market, I definitely would encourage doing things like that. You could even do like bike tours or massages or things like that with your properties, but we just don't live in a market where we can really optimize that system. But I have a lot of friends that do live in those markets where it's a big city where they can really make a lot of extra money every single month doing things like an in-house chef, where they have a chef come in and cook a meal for the people staying in the home, or they'll have a masseuse come and do a full body massage for the guests, things like that. And then as a host, it's great because you're kind of handling the marketing for other people. You don't actually have to hire these people in-house. It could be local vendors, or people that own their own business and want some extra marketing. And they're more than happy to pay, up to $50, $100 on top of what they usually charge.
Yeah. And yeah, it's quite interesting. And you talk about market, and where can someone like arbitrage, co-hosting, where can these opportunities be done?
Yeah. Arbitrage can be done anywhere, and it doesn't just have to be with Airbnb properties. So we're actually arbitraging a 45,000 square foot warehouse. So we found a warehouse that was vacant. We rented it for 6,000 a month, and then we subleased it to a furniture manufacturer for 10,000 a month. So arbitrage isn't just for Airbnb. You can use it in commercial applications. You can use it for event spaces. There's people doing it in every different area in real estate and other businesses as well. So I really think anybody can benefit from learning how the arbitrage process works, and then they can apply that to any other business that they like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite you've opened up so many different possibilities, and you talked about building an empire with used furniture. How can people starting with bad money or without any money and bad credit? And so speak to some of the guests, they may be wary of this or that. Speak to that, like in terms of money, bad credit and furniture.
Yeah. So I think the greatest opportunity to start your own business and then get into actual real estate investing where you're buying and holding the property, because that's our long-term goal. This is just one of the first stepping stones to increase our cash flow so that we can invest in larger assets. But I think the biggest opportunity is the co-hosting model, where you can find somebody else that owns a property or even is arbitraging it and doesn't want to manage it themselves. And then you can manage the property for somebody else, charge 15 to 25% of gross revenue. And we've made up to $2,000 a month in profit on properties we co-host for other people that we have no money into. You don't need credit for that either. So I think that's just a fantastic opportunity. There are people just like me that only do co-hosting, and they've got hundreds of properties making millions of dollars a year. So it's definitely a great opportunity.
Yeah. What's your 5-year plan, for this business? I know you touched a little bit upon that.
Yeah, 5-year plan for this business. We'll continue to slowly grow this company. I don't want 1,000 arbitrage units though. It's a lot of work and a lot of headache to have that many units. Once you get over 100, it just becomes a huge business because you have so many moving parts. Right now, with just 37 properties, we have over 170 turnovers a month. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong there, a lot of headache if you're not managing it properly. Luckily, I've got a team that helps me out. I've got around 20 people working full time for me that help take most of that burden off of me. So I'm working an hour less a day on my actual business. Everything else is focused on growth. So 5-year, we'll slowly grow this business. maybe to 75 units, 100 units. But our criteria for profits has gone up over time. It started at 1,000 a month. Now we're looking to 3,000 a month minimum. That way we have less properties, but more overall profit and less headache. And then we're going to take our profits, put them into multifamily real estate. This year we have a goal to purchase 50 multifamily units. We're not focusing on single family anymore, other than for like flips and wholesale deals we're doing on the side, because a lot of people come to me for deals now that they know that I have the experience in the industry. But long term, we're definitely going to multifamily instead of building a massive arbitrage company.
Speak to about one thing with Airbnbs is regulation, and a lot of these places, they have like short term and you have to get permits and leases, and speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So I think we're at an interesting time right now in the market because we have so many markets that don't have regulations currently. So like locally, we just started getting a few regulations where we have to get permits and things like that. But I actually think it's a better thing rather than worse, because it allows people that want to do this professionally and as a business like us to really excel over people that are coming in with one or two units and just throwing something together and wanting to take in guests. Maybe they're cleaning the property themselves and they're just not operating at a high level. So it makes it less appealing for somebody like that. And it makes it easier for us to compete, because the problem with scale is the things that we were doing at one and two units, we can no longer do. It's just not feasible or profitable. Like putting together gift baskets, doing those really personal touches and going above and beyond. You can't do that for 170 times a month and still be profitable. That's just an extreme expense. And that's something where if you're just starting out, you can really get above the competition, because if you only have one or two properties, that's all you have to focus on. So you can do those extra touches. And if you're doing the work yourself, you can still be extremely profitable. So long term, with new regulations, I definitely think it will make it better for the large operators.
Interesting. Yeah, there was this one podcast it was Masters of Scale, where it's talking about in the early stages before you get so big. If you're big, you have to use like software and systems to scale.
Yep.
And then when you're first starting, you do things that don't scale, like where you're talking about,
Yeah.
those extra touches. How is your acquisition strategy changing in light of this economic uncertainty, recession, interest rates, all of that?
Yeah. So our acquisition strategy has definitely changed a lot over the years. I think when new hosts first start out, they have the tendency to go towards the hot markets, the ones that everybody's talking about: Dallas, Houston, Austin, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Atlanta, all those markets that everybody talks about in the media. And what I encourage my students to do is look at niche markets around those. Because the problem is, like, we had 7 units in Scottsdale and Phoenix, Arizona. That area went from 5,000 units to 23,000 units in a year, quadrupled. So what did that mean for us? That meant we went from 95% occupancy rates to 45% occupancy rates. Almost less than half of our occupancy left, because our units look the exact same as thousands of other people's. So now, with us looking at niche markets surrounding those hotspots, we're able to better compete. There's not as much competition, and we're still taking in as much or more profit, because these are markets people are overlooking because they're too focused on, oh, I want to get in Austin, I want to get in Dallas, those hot markets everybody talks about. But the truth is, when you're competing against that many units, you have to perform at such a higher level. And again, when you're performing at scale, it's very hard to have 50 units in a market and compete with somebody that has one. They're going to be much more detail oriented. They're going to be going above and beyond on that property, where even though we do our best to go above and beyond, we're not putting together handmade gift baskets and offering wine and chocolates to every guest that checks in.
Yeah.
We can't compete at that level. So that's another reason why, like, the niche markets, the smaller ones where we can really come in and make a presence and use what we've learned to scale and really make a great experience still. is very impactful in those markets and very profitable.
Yeah. That's what I love is Airbnb is kind of is like a software, it's a marketing tool. And you're talking about like niche markets, finding those sub markets to focus on and target. And I know, so I understand you're a life and business coach. You help clients, speak to how people can follow you on social media, contact you, check your business out, etc.
Yeah, so I started out only teaching arbitrage, but now it's gone to more of a entire life and business coaching. Because the problem is, I can teach somebody arbitrage all day long, but if they don't have the foundation, then they'll never really excel in business. So it's that foundation that's important: your health, your mental awareness, your mindset, your ability to push forward challenges and not get discouraged. Because us as entrepreneurs, like, it's a hard path sometimes. You're going to go through those extreme valleys, but you're also going to have some extreme peaks where you feel on top of the world. So it's important to take care of yourself physically and mentally to prepare yourself for those. And then learning how to utilize your credit, how to build that, how to manage people and use leverage so that you're not working yourself to the bone, doing everything by yourself. And that was one of the problems I had early on. But somebody that wants to learn what we're doing, see some of the content we're putting out and what we're all about, the best place to see that is my Instagram. My Instagram is Q Deals Homes. They can also contact me on TikTok. It's the same thing, Q Deals Homes, and Facebook, Quentin West.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's, for all the listeners out there, let's thank Quentin for coming onto the show, talking about these new ideas, Airbnb arbitrage, co-hosting experiences, and really providing a fascinating insight into how to market and strategize in today's economy. Be sure to check all his social media out and visit his website. And with that, thanks so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you having me.